Hello and welcome to another day of Live at the Waterhole. My name is Taylor McCurdy and I'm going to be your host for the next 2 hours. I hope you're excited and getting ready for an action-packed day because the sun is out in comparison to yesterday. But if you have just stumbled across and you're wondering what on earth are you looking at right now, well, these are wild animals, elephants and zebra, and it's live and it's a interactive show, so you can actually ask me questions in real time. Now, there's a number of ways that you can do this. There are a couple of, they're all easy. You can, of course, send your questions to wildearth.tv/questions or use the hashtag wildearth if you're going to be communicating via X or Twitter. And if you're casually just scrolling on YouTube, then pop your messages on the chat that way. But very exciting. Looking forward to it. I mean, a day filled with elephants in my books is always a good day. But we're on the far east coast of South Africa in a wilderness area called Tembe Elephant Park, and a place that I am itching to get to because, well, if you love elephants, I feel like this is the right place to go to and to see some of the last tuskers that roam this area in South Africa. Sadly, there's only a handful of them left. Lots of up and coming individuals, but none that can compare to those that live in East Africa. So I'm very excited to see who is joining me today. What you will notice is that there are quite a few who have been watching regularly. And, well, we chat all the time. So this is a safe and fun community. And what a great way to sort of spend the holiday season. But it's nice to see the zebra around, just feeding on the bottom right. The grass has greened up quite a bit. I don't know how much rain this part has had, but a lot of our weather comes from the southeast, or in fact the northeast at the moment, in the Indian Ocean. And there are big hurricanes that make their way and eventually make landfall, which we're very grateful for at this time of the year. Penelope, you're on board today. You said hello, hello, and it is great to hear from you. Catherine is here. Hi, Catherine. Darcy Miller, and Darcy, you said hello, Taylor and Tucker. Tucker is outside enjoying the sun because for the last 5 days or so, it's been quite gloomy and he's not used to days like that without sunshine. So he's absorbing all of the vitamin D. Although I keep checking on him because it's been a little bit cooler, but the snakes are going to come out, so I have to watch him. Dark Main Lover, it's great to hear from you. I feel like it's been a while, so welcome back. Maybe you've just been watching silently. That's all. Now, the zebra that we're looking at is a beautiful species of zebra, even though the one on the left, which looks like the stallion, is missing his tail. These are called plain zebra. Very easy to identify. I'll just run through that because we've got a couple of different zebra species. But if you look between the black and the white stripes, they've got that stereotypical shadow stripe, which is synonymous with the plain zebra, but off they go. I can't say that I've really seen many zebra around here, which is interesting. Occasionally just popping in, but not sort of hanging around. Maybe they came down to have a drink and they're heading into the thickets. Gosh, more elephants are just arriving on scene. It's always pleasant to see the breeding herds coming through. Typically, these waterholes are just filled with elephant bulls that come to hang around the whole day. Because, well, when you're lounging about near a pool of water, lovely fresh grass and green leaves around you don't really need to travel very far at all. But the breeding herds tend to keep a move on. Ah, Catherine, you said that you're wearing your zebra socks that you got for Christmas. That's exciting. That's maybe why the zebras were around at the start of the show, but they have now moved off. And then, Jill, you said that it is so nice to see so many elephants. Absolutely. I reckon if I visited this this park, I don't know what this waterhole is called, but I would literally just sit at it all day. I'd park myself under a shady tree that's not being used by an elephant, a little bit of a distance away, and I'd take a book and I would just read and watch, maybe even have a little snooze. Because I think that the sound of the elephant splashing around the water for me is like the sound of waves in the ocean and is quite therapeutic. But what a great place to be. I'd stay out all day. I would not go back to camp. I'd take a packed lunch or packed breakfast, little snacky things to nibble on. Never nice to overeat when you're sitting in a vehicle all day long. I say this, but some of you might be the same. I don't think I can do the button up on my pants anymore after yesterday's feast. I hope that's the case with all of you, so I'm not alone. And then, Darkman Lover, you agree. You said it is so soothing to watch elephants relaxing. Absolutely. Look at that little elephant on the top left. Picked up the pace a little bit and waving its trunk around. Hard to not be excited around the water. And you can see the elephants are clever. They can see, or they can sense where the water is being pumped. So there's quite a large elephant, sort of the lower third on the left-hand side with long tusks. You can see there are a couple of rocks that are there. Almost looks like they've moved them out of the way. And those rocks are probably put there to try and protect the pipe to deter the elephants, but very little deters elephants. Animal lover, you're wondering, what is my most memorable encounter with an elephant? I've honestly got so many, and I could go on for the next hour telling you about my most amazing experiences. I'll start with a memory from when I first started guiding a very long time ago. I say a very long time ago, but almost 13 years ago. Maybe it was 12 years ago now. I was sitting with another guide at Kariega Game Reserve out in one of the big open plains. And in my opinion, the herd of elephants at Kariega is just the best herd in the whole wide world. They're amazing. And I've got so many stories and encounters with them, which is why I truly believe they are. But anyways, we were watching this herd of elephants. We were sitting slightly lower down on the plains, and they were in the distance because the sun was not quite setting yet, but we were getting beautiful silhouetted shots of the elephants, which is a very difficult thing to do. And myself and this other guy watching, the next minute, the elephants turned, heads raised, ears out, trunks up in the air, and they started stampeding towards myself and another female guide. So the last thing you want to do is, if animals are stampeding towards you, it's better to just sit still, because as soon as you start frantically driving around, they're not thinking clearly either. Then they might hit the vehicle. But if you're just sitting there, they will see you, and for the most part, they'll go around. Except if it's wildebeest in East Africa, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But the herd came rushing towards us. I was quite nervous because I was still really new, and I was still learning about elephant behavior. Didn't know the herd very well. The next minute, they surrounded us. Myself and Alicia was actually the other guide. We were completely surrounded by these elephants. And we were in the middle with all the little ones. And we couldn't understand what was going on. And the adults were all on the outside, sort of trumpeting, rumbling, but not a happy interaction. But if they were unhappy with us, they wouldn't have surrounded us and put us in the middle of the herd, which they normally do to protect the youngsters. Then we heard on the radio that the pride of lions had popped out on the southern sort of plains on the tree line, and that's what the elephants reacted to. It was unbelievable. It's a moment that I'll cherish forever. Again, I don't think it's something that I will experience. I just happened to be there. And yeah, like I said, this herd and every single person that's worked at Kurika will tell you some kind of unbelievable story that it doesn't sound real, but that's just what they're like. So that was really cool. Then, of course, for those of you that have been watching Wild Earth for a long time, during the pandemic, I met a breeding herd of elephants on Pride when the fences were dropped around the old hunting farm. Obviously, no hunting happens there now. It's been uh, rewilded and allowed for the natural vegetation and wildlife to move back into the area, which was so great. So that meant that all of the elephants in the Greater Kruger swarmed the place because lush vegetation in an area that had been for 60 years, no one's at all. You can imagine. Like every single herd of young. Those of you who've heard the story so many times would probably be sick of it. Okay, I'm back for real now. Sorry, everybody, but it should be fixed. What I was saying, I was going to finish that story about this elephant cow, this teenage cow. Now, my whole life, I've had issues with them. Actually, issues, I suppose, is a has a negative connotation to it. But so, for lack of better words, but they would throw sticks at me, mud, shake their heads, all those types of things for some bizarre reason. And anyways, it's happened in Kenya, it's happened in Zambia, and of course multiple times in South Africa. And anyways, this same situation with this one elephant cow, the breeding herd I would see regularly at Pridelands, which is just outside of Hoedspruit. And miraculously, we'd see this cow every single day. I say we because obviously I was a wild earth for myself and my cameraman. And it's like this young cow remembered the sound of my voice, or she knew who I was. Now, I know that might seem quite far fetched, but when you understand the intelligence of elephants, which I'll get to in just a moment, then you'll go, ah, okay, that kind of makes a lot of sense. And every time I would drive near the herd, she would come out and find me. Like one day I'll never forget, or it happened a couple of times, far away. Maybe like I could see the herd 100 meters away in the distance, and then we'd start chatting. And the next minute, Susan would move away from the herd and she'd come towards me. We named her Susan just for fun. That's not her actual name. And, anyways, had these experiences every day. She would exhibit, not territorial, sorry, these aggressive signs. And I always say, if an elephant cow, an adult, did that to me, I would have packed my bags and run. I would have got straight out of there. But she was so strange. She'd do it. She'd touch the ground. Then she would lie on her side and almost look like she thrashes her legs about. And then she'd get up and then she'd stand next to the vehicle and put her trunk lying flat on the ground. And she'd close her eyes and she'd go to sleep. So it was really interesting. It was very different behavior. I never really felt threatened. She was naughty though. She did try to touch the vehicle, which I never let her do, and I'd tell her off regularly before she got to that point. Um, so yeah. So, anyways, those moments with her, I'll treasure forever. I've never spent so much time in an open ecosystem reserve, so where there's no fences, uh, with the same herd of elephants, and the whole herd was amazing. So I have a great photo that is my cover photo on Facebook, and it's of the entire herd, Susan's herd, lying in front of the vehicle, and all the babies are fast asleep. Again, I sat for 45 minutes waiting for the herd to come out of the thickets. They just slowly fed. They were long distance away. And they also, once again, came towards me. I wasn't sitting in the shade. I was out in the sun. It was a very hot day. The herd then came towards me. They sort of were around the vehicle. Then they started having a dust bath. And then all the little ones laid down. And I was like, wow, this is very special. So, yeah, those are some of my favorite elephant stories. But I've got loads and loads. So, Sarah from the UK, you said that elephants are lounging around all day has given you the image of them lying on the sun, lying in the sun on pool lounges. That would be a great sight. If only we could come up with something that could carry the weight of an elephant, right? Although they love it. You must watch elephants in the water when it's deep enough. I always say it's the happiest you'll ever see them, and I'll never stop saying that. Darcy Miller, you remember Susan? You said she was so funny, and Penelope, you also loved the saga of Susan. It was great. It was the highlight of my day, and I think it was over a year that I was seeing her quite regularly. So very special, indeed. If any of you have got any unbelievable, memorable moments spent with elephants, please do share. And now I suppose I need to finish my chat about the intelligence of elephants and how I suspect that Susan knew exactly who I was by my scent, by the sound of my voice. As recent studies have come out, thanks to Dr. Joyce Poole, who I talk about quite often. Again, you can head over to Elephant Voices and check it out. But basically, she has said and suggested that elephants, when they communicate with one another, is not only can they remember, individuals within the herd and other individuals that are not part of the herd, but they actually have names. They consistently refer to one another. And this was isolated by using infrasounds and their vocalizations where they'd see the same frequency being repeated and repeated. They isolated that and they played it, and one elephant would respond. They did this multiple times. Then they found another frequency that was being repeated, played it, played it, played it, played it. then a different elephant would respond. So we'll never know what their names are really, but it's still pretty crazy. That's, of course, just the summarized simple version of it. But anyways, we're going to quickly go over to King's Camp in the Timbavati for a very special site. We've got a hippopotamus fast asleep in the water with a lovely low angle view. Now, I believe there was a terrapin that was sitting on it just a moment ago, and you can see one just in front of its nostrils, that tiny little black head protruding. Oh, it's just gone under now. Let's see if any of them are going to climb back on the hippo. Now, terrapins and hippos have a long standing relationship with one another, and in fact, hippos play a vital role to the ecosystem. Now, not only are they bulk grazers, where they'll go out at night or even during the day and will feast upon grass. When I say like feast, I mean anywhere between 30 and 40 kilograms in an evening. So, spectacular. Um, and then their role within the aquatic ecosystem is probably even more valuable. So things like terrapins will often spend a lot of time around the hippos. Firstly, they sit still like this for most of the day, so it makes like a great resting point, right? They can be safe and out of harm's way from anything that might want to eat them. And by sitting on the top of the hippo's back, they're able to warm up. Nice little rock resting point, really. Sometimes they'll even tower on top of one another, which is quite comical. But with hippos, they defecate a lot because of the amount of grass matter that they feed on every single day. As they defecate in the water, which I suppose is where hippos will defecate most because they spend the most amount of their day in the water. It's it's sort of food, if you will. Fish will be drawn around the hippos. You might even find the terrapins might munch on it a little bit. And of course, there'll be all sorts of other little organisms that will find it a tasty treat. So it really is great and nutritious. Now, if we didn't have hippos in the ecosystems, in the aquatic ecosystems here in South Africa and other parts of Africa, where hippos are prevalent, I think we'd be in big trouble. And then, of course, the terrapins, when we find one, they'll occasionally pull ticks and things off of them too. Sometimes even open wounds, which is always fascinating to see. Hello, Canine Girl. You said it is great to be spending the day with all of us. Well, we're happy that you're here spending the day with us too. Also great just hearing all the little birds chirping in the background. And not much will give away that this hippo is actually alive other than the occasional deep breath and the flip of the ear. Now, that sort of grunting noise, gurgling sound that you heard, that's an impala making that sound. So they might be coming around to have a drink of water too. There they are. Perfect timing. So I'm sure we'll see a couple of impala, hopefully a couple of the lambs too. Very unlikely just to see one on their own, but not so much at this time of the year because the females will go off and give birth in denser vegetation for a couple of days before they join the herds with their youngsters. Eileen, you've said, is it possible to hand rear baby orphaned hippos? It is, but it needs to be done by professionals. So, unfortunately, what happens so often all over the world is people think that they're able to rear animals on their own, and it's a lot more complicated than you think. It's one thing Googling what they might feed on, but the milk from the mothers, or if it's a bird, whatever they might be being fed by the adults, it's very important that you get that mixture right, which, us regular folk, we have no idea what that is. So, if you do find an orphaned animal, it's best to get in touch with some kind of wildlife services or your local vet, and they will be able to advise as to what you could do with them. And the best thing is actually just to take them to a rehab center where hopefully they'll be able to raise them till adults and then rewild and release them. So, with hippos, there's an amazing uh, rehabilitation center just outside of, well, actually just outside of Zanin in Limpopo province, and it's called Umoyan. Now, it's not open to the public, so you can't just go there and see the animals, but they have successfully raised many orphan hippos and then released them back into the wild again. But they drink a lot of milk. They obviously need quite a bit of space to move around, but it is possible. I would definitely not be raising a hippo, that's for sure. Although the temptation of a pygmy hippo, oh, it's tough. It's so tough. If you haven't ever seen what a pygmy hippo looks like, please go and Google it. It's hysterical. They are tiny. Um, they don't live in the savanna ecosystem. You head up towards the more forested areas, especially around Central Africa. Although there are not very many of them left, you could have a good chance of spotting them. So we don't have a terrapin on top of the hippo, but we've had a couple of birds join the scene. A beautiful big grey heron just up and to the left of the hippopotamus, and then the birds sitting on top of the back of the hippo. Those are oxpeckers. Andrew, you said that you feel as though You have a hangover today because you sat up watching the repeats of the waterhole yesterday until 1 a.m. My goodness. That is incredible. That's dedication there, Andrew. I'm so glad. Well, it must have been good then. It was a little bit slow at some point, but we had some interesting conversations, and nonetheless, lots of elephant sightings, of course. So I love having a view of the aquatic bird species around this waterhole. Again, we don't have too many uh, sort of low angle cameras, so we'll follow this grey heron. That's beautiful, bright sort of yellow beak with those orangey yellow legs. It's quite a tall bird, not quite as tall as something like a marabou stork or a Goliath heron, but still great. And if it does catch something, well, we're in for a close view. And you'll see that even that heron will be drawn to spending time around the hippo because, like I said, where there's feces, there are fish and probably some frogs, and that means food. But now we get an interesting look at the oxpeckers on the hippo's backs. These are red-billed oxpeckers, and there are little wounds that are on the hippos, which is quite normal. You see lots of scratches, but they've healed up. That their skin is so thin, the epidermis, and the oxpeckers, of course, have got not quite a sharp hook at the tip of their beak like you would see with some of the birds of prey, but it is sharp enough to be able to pull back the scabs. And now they're encouraging blood flow, and that's what they're feasting on. So never mind the ticks that are engorged with blood. This is a much better solution. So you'll see they open the wound, they keep pecking on it, which can't be nice for the hippo, but it's obviously not bothering it that much. And then they'll actually be drinking that blood. And then Jay, you've said that that looks like it stings. Like I said, I don't think it's particularly pleasant. Penelope, you said such a peaceful scene, I suppose, until the oxpeckers showed up and started digging into the hippo. Oh, look, the terrapin is also coming in. Listen to the oxpeckers, how unhappy they are with the fact that the this thing. Also, sorry, we're just struggling to find the focus, so that should hopefully come through. But that is awesome to see. What a cool moment. Come on, focus, come back. There we go. That's such an amazing scene. We've got everybody here now. Hello, Terrapin. Look at your funny looking eyes sitting right up on the top of its head. But it needs to be there. See, as though they don't really need to look below the surface of the water, but because their heads just pop up every now and then, they need to see what's happening above. Let's see if the terrapin is going to move into these little places where the oxpeckers have opened up the skin. Because like I was saying earlier, quite often they will also feed on sort of wounds and pull back the skin, and then I suppose they're also engulfing blood. And then, George, you said that oxpeckers have a terrible call. You're not wrong, right? But they're beautiful to look at. But it is the bird that is probably the most respected by guides, especially guides that are trails guides who are out on foot, walking in big five areas with their clients, because those birds are associated with mammals. Now, of course, it could be oxpeckers sitting amongst a group of impala, but when you're walking into the thickets, who knows, it might be a rhino sleeping behind a termite mound or a lonely buffalo bull, or even something like this, a hippo that could be injured, or perhaps it's a drought and there's not always water available, so they will tuck themselves under vegetation. So that is interesting. And it's definitely helped me out quite a bit in all the years that I have been guiding. Then, Canine Girl, you said that sharing is caring, the season of goodwill. You're quite right. And now the oxpeckers have had enough and have moved away. Hello, terrapin. Now, this is always the tricky thing, is to try and identify terrapins. We really just see two species, the marsh terrapin and the serrated hinged terrapin. Which one are you? I think I'm going to almost, just by looking at one, to go with the serrated hinged terrapin. just because my favorite way to identify them is looking for the markings between where its mouth is and its nostrils are. Always nice and clean and white with the marsh terrapins, unless they've been in the mud. But with a serrated hinge, you'll often see lots of little lines. Because I don't see that classic white moustache, I'm leaning towards the serrated hinge terrapin. Oh, and the impala have arrived. You can just see the reflection popping in and out every now and then on the right-hand side. Oh gosh, impala are chatty. The terrapin on the log, terrapin on the hippo's back, and of course the grey heron is not moving away. This waterhole is bustling with life. I think everything is appreciating that the clouds are slowly but surely burning away and revealing the nice blue sky and the warmth. It's been a bit chilly. Oh, here we go. Penelope, you said that oxpeckers warned you of a rhino once in Mfolozi on a trail. There we go. Very important. We don't want to unintentionally surprise animals. You don't really want to intentionally surprise them either. I don't know why I added the word. Surprise was sufficient, but you know how it is. But look at all the impala lambs, not straying too far from their mums. Even a couple of dragonflies buzzing about. Dragonfly, come and land on the hippo's back so we can have a look at you. And again, that gurgling, grunting, some of it will be, or actually most of it is coming from these young impala lambs, just constantly communicating with one another and their mothers. Apologies for going silent. I'm just fighting with my kitten who wants to play on the keyboard, which is funny how they just always drawn to laptops, but she's now moved away. Her name is Turtle, in case you were wondering. Darkman Lover, you said that those impala lambs are beautiful. They really are. It's been so nice to see. I was just in the Sabi Sand recently at Juma, hosting some of the live safaris, and it's crazy how quickly those young lambs become habituated. Obviously, when mom gives birth, she's a little bit wary of cars and she tends to run away. And then, of course, the youngsters follow their cue, but now they're all settled and don't seem to mind. This is a great view of this hippopotamus's face. You can see it even has quite a deep gash just below its left eye. Now, hippos get torn up rather often. Um, it's just crazy whether they be fighting with one another is normally the case, even just moving through dense vegetation with lots of sticks and thorns um, could open up some wounds. And then something else that's unique, because we don't always get to see this view of a hippo. Well, of course, we've got the cameras and we can view them without disturbing them, is hippos have a unique adaptation. Watch its nostrils. You see as it breathes how it can actually bring the nostrils together and close them. Look at that. Now, that's important for a hippo to be able to do that. Same thing with its ears, so that when it does go underwater, it's not inhaling any water, not causing any problems. For we all know hippos can stay underwater for a long time. So that's interesting. In case you're wondering, hippos breathe air. They don't practice osmosis like most fish species do, where they will extract oxygen via the water. Well, that's why they have to hold their breath. Sarah from the UK said, can the hippo feel if a terrapin is on its back? Absolutely. This is, again, a good opportunity for us to see that hippos are not smooth. Their skin is actually covered in hair. Now, not dense hair. It's quite coarse and sparsely distributed over its body. So those bristles feel quite hard. In fact, they feel like plastic. It's the only way I can describe it. And when you have hair on your body, right, you're able to detect movement and feel things. That's why, for the most part, all animals will have hair. Of course, there's some exceptions, especially when we start looking at a lot of the marine creatures. But yeah, with hippos, they'll definitely be able to feel it. But they're not bothered by it. A young hippo might have a terrapin on its back and freak out, just like young animals do when oxpeckers start landing on them. It just takes a bit of time to realize that this is going to be an everyday occurrence. Sarah, you were just quickly asking about my kitten. She said, "What color is my kitten?" Turtle is calico, if that makes sense. So she's got a lot of white on her. She's got rusty colors. She's got stripes. She's got a bit of black, all sorts. Funny looking thing. But back to the terrapin. Here I am. You know what's terrible? I'm just going to expose myself for a second. I totally did that thing where I thought my computer was touchscreen and I could just zoom in closer to have a look at this terrapin to see if I successfully identified it. Obviously, I can't do that. But anyways, see the terrapin is actually just surveying at the moment. So even though it's relatively safe on this hippo's back, still good to keep an eye out for aerial predators. Although I've never seen a bird of prey take a hippo. That's definitely not the case. A bird of prey take a terrapin off of a hippo. But if anybody has ever seen anything like that, honestly, it wouldn't shock me. But you can see it's also got its. Sorry, I had to the kitten again. Here isn't it mid sentence? What a nightmare. So what I was just going to say, you can see that it's got its little appendages out, and it's almost flattened itself against it because not only is it going to be warming itself up by the sun, but the hippo is letting off quite a bit of heat too. Got funny little snouts as well, little tips, little nostrils. Again, just special adaptations to be able to just poke their heads out of the water and not reveal much of their body. Oh my goodness, Penelope, you said that you once canoed over a hippo that was underwater. It is scary, it's terrifying. I've done the same thing on the Zambezi River, uh, especially when they're underneath the water, right? Then you can't see them. And the last thing that you want is for a hippo to breach underneath you and tip you out of your canoe. Um, so you have to really decide if that's something that you want to do. It is practiced all over Africa by means of transport, fishing, and then, of course, just as a general activity these days, normally conducted by professionals that know the waterways well. It's always good to just keep a healthy distance away from all animals. I've had a crocodile do that as well. I almost died. The water was quite shallow though, maybe about a meter deep. This crocodile went off of a bank, and the water was crystal clear, so I could see it. And I've never made myself so small in a canoe in my entire life. Needless to say, I've only done it a handful of times, and I'm not in a hurry to do it again. But the heron is taking a break from trying to catch its lunch, now just lurking on the edge of the water, preening its feathers, drying them out too. You can see, oh, no, it's still, what did you strike at the water for? I mean, they don't only just eat fish and frogs. Oh, it caught something. What are you? Are you a tiny fish? Or is it a flying? Did it grab a dragonfly? It caught. Ah, that was probably one of the most amazing things. I didn't think, again, it just shows how naive we are, especially me in this moment, to say that a heron would never grab a dragonfly. Firstly, because they're exceptionally fast flying creatures. But it plucked at it and it happened to grab it. But then as it opened its beak, the dragonfly managed to escape. That's going to be a serious story for the dragonfly. Gosh, crazy. It must have just sat down just in front of it and then grabbed it. So opportunistic. So you can see why you can never throw, or you can never say no about anything. And now it's doing a beautiful display, opening its wings. And what this bird is doing now is sunning itself. So we call it sunbathing. It kind of reminds me of when you sit out in the sun and cross your legs and put uh, you rest your elbows on your knees and go hum. That's what I can imagine this heron doing. Wow, that's so special to see. I'm so sad I didn't take a video of that because quite often I'll take little videos of the things I'm watching. It's just so fascinating. But maybe we'll get to watch it again. I suspect that that's not the first time that this heron has caught a dragonfly. There's some skill involved. I'm always rooting for the insects, though. I mean, dragonflies are amazing creatures. I love them because of all the flying insects that they catch, that they specialize in, especially flies. But to witness something like that is quite special. And a story that I will be telling lots. So if you continue watching Wild Earth, the live drives, and then, of course, the waterhole shows, you will most certainly hear me mentioning that. Look at that little crest that it has, how it's erecting all its feathers, having a good old scratch underneath the chin. Well, the chin in inverted commas. Dark Rain Lover, you said that birds are fascinating. They really are. Oh, they just discarded a feather that is no longer performing its task, and well, it's not necessary. Get rid of the old feathers and let the new ones come through. Right, back into the water we go. Let's keep a close eye on this heron. My goal today is to see it catch a fish, a frog, or maybe even another dragonfly. Catherine, you said that sunbathing birds sound wonderful because it is -5 degrees Celsius outside. No, thank you. As much as I want to see snow, those temperatures terrify me. I don't know how well I would cope. And you see, the problem is I don't like to wear long pants either, so I'd have to wear like 4 pairs of shorts to try and keep me warm. Right. Let's head to the Sabi Sand Game Reserve now and check out the Encore camera. Oh, an elephant. Also, one of the most awesome cameras. I love this open area. You don't see too many of them in the northern Sabi Sand. And there's always a lot of life around here, especially at nighttime. Plenty of lions, lots of hyenas that come through. And of course, there's a healthy population of leopards in this area. But today, the waterhole, which is looking topped up, which is great. Um, well, we're just enjoying it with one elephant, and I suppose that's better than nothing. We gain a slightly different view. This camera is placed higher up rather than down below at some of the other waterholes. Monica CW, wondering why we haven't seen any butterflies and whether or not it is unusual. So it's probably got something to do with the lack of rain that we've been experiencing, which is obviously devastating, but drought cycles are natural, but who knows? Maybe as we enter the new year, because we've got quite a long rainy season in this part of the world, perhaps it will increase and then life will be all over. You'll see the odd butterfly flying around. The grasses are really just starting to flower at the moment, and I haven't honestly seen many flowers out and about. There are a few, but not not nearly as many. So I think that that's got a lot to do with it. When was it? Not yesterday, maybe 2 days before that, I was out roaming around in the garden, and I also live at a lodge, so there's quite a bit of wild animals running around. No big game though, except we do see leopards. And I was seeing plenty of butterflies, a couple that I haven't seen before. But what have been out and about are the moths. I've never seen so many moths in my entire life, and a whole bunch of different species, which is really awesome to see. And now we've got a few more birds to have a look at. We've got the hardy-dar ibises with the big long beaks, and then the black and white one is a blacksmith lapwing. Penelope, you said that you're going to miss the woodland kingfisher calls when they leave. So if you don't know what a woodland kingfisher sounds like, you hear it every now and then, sort of like a high-pitched trill. Not trill, trill. Now, of course, it's stopped. That's a very prominent sound. I think we'll all miss them. Everyone's very excited when they first arrive, and then just before they leave, I think people are so sick of sick of hearing them. I don't mind them too much, but we've still got a couple more months of that beautiful chorus. I have a question for all of you. I'm not a huge fan of the sound when people slurp, right? Different cultures, different strokes for different folks. Do you get annoyed by an elephant when it slurps like this? Because I don't, which is interesting. And I don't know why it only annoys me when people do it, but when animals do it, it's not a problem at all. Let me know if you feel the same way. There's no logic behind it, I don't think. I think oh, Egyptian geese have also joined the scene now. You can just see their heads poking out from the bottom of the screen. Was wondering where they were. So I'm going to share this comment from Nadine, who is directing, because I think there's some truth in this. Nadine has said it's a great question, and her response is that maybe it's because people can be annoying and animals are not. That's really, really funny. Of course, in some cultures, it's a sign of, enjoyment that they really enjoyed the food. And then Penelope, you said never. It's quite soothing. I'm assuming you're talking about animals. Ah, here we go. Hillary B, you're wondering if I've ever seen elephants deliberately blow water at geese and other animals at waterholes. Yes, absolutely. I've seen elephants doing it to hippos, to buffalo, to an array of bird species. And when they're not in the water, they do the same thing. Quite often, it's a flick of the trunk in the direction of birds, which is rather hilarious. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't. Oh, it's also beautiful. There's not a breath of wind outside at the moment, which is creating the most fabulous reflection. Look at that. Mindy, hello. Also, a long time since I've heard from you. You said that you think it's cool that we have technology that's so advanced that you are able to hear elephants slurping in South Africa all the way from the USA. Pretty cool. You're not wrong. And Lorraine Good, you said that you love the sound of elephants slurping water. Happy noise. Aha, I see a few more people have joined and are watching now. Rosie Adams, you've just jump on board now. Hello, hello, welcome. And then Denny from Germany, you have asked, how much do elephants drink in one day? Well, it depends. It varies quite a bit depending on the size and the age of the elephant and what conditions it might be exposed to. So, is it an elephant that is in an area where there are not many water holes or river systems to drink out of? So, the distances between finding water and also heat comes into play too? Or is it an elephant, for example, in the Sabi Sand or the Greater Kruger of South Africa, where there are quite a few waterholes and river systems where the elephants might be able to from? And it's increasingly, the temperatures are pretty hot at this time of the year. So it is suggested that they'll drink about 100 to 120 liters of water a day. But not only do they drink that water, they'll spend lots of time around the water's edge. As this elephant is doing right now, it's tossing it all over its body, and of course, that will help keep it cool. So I love that. A sip of water, and then a splash over its entire body. I don't know how long this elephant has been here for, but it's been some time. We were looking at the other cameras, so it's hard to say before we zoomed across if it was here 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. But it is a bull, that's why he is on his own and not in any hurry. I love that. Love that animals are not in a rush. Also, the sound of him exhaling is such a great noise too. Not noise, sound. Can hear the grey-headed sparrows chirping about that. Chip, chip, chip. You hear it just now. There. Oh, Denny said thank you for the answer. Oh, it's only a pleasure. This is live and interactive, so you'll get the answers pretty quickly. So send them on, and I'm happy to chat about them. The other cameras are a little bit on the quiet side today, so we're just enjoying many peaceful moments with the elephants. There's no need to steal their thunder. And then, Deb Davis, you're wondering if young elephants will nurse from their mothers with their trunks. Now, it seems like that would be the exact thing that they would do, right? Because that's how they drink water. But they don't actually use their trunks, they'll use their mouths. So they'll go up to the mother's teat, and the trunks will sort of lift up, forming almost an S shape and allowing its mouth to be able to suckle that way. But when elephants are young and there's not much coordination, they haven't developed and strengthened the muscles in their trunks. Thank goodness their trunks are shorter too, otherwise they'd step on them and fall over all the time. What you'll see, even though they don't need to necessarily drink water, they'll basically plop to the ground, stick their entire faces in the water, and try and drink through their mouth, which is really funny to see. But that doesn't last for very long. Doesn't seem to be too much else around, just the local birds. Some drinking water, some looking for something to eat, and just like the heron, we were at King's Camp doing a bit of feather maintenance. We are checking out the other cameras to see what else is lurking about, so hopefully in a couple of minutes we'll go and have a look somewhere else to a camera maybe that we haven't been to yet today. Again, such interesting behavior from the hardy-dars, stretching out. Like I was saying, I think every single animal is just enjoying the sun at the moment. It's such a unique thing to see. I do love the iridescence that hardy-dars have on them. Most of the time people don't even notice it, especially if they're sitting in the shade. But the way that the light refracts off of their feathers and getting those sort of shimmery greens, sometimes some purple tones and blues every now and then. Okay, thank you, Hardy Dog. We're going to head across to a different game reserve in South Africa, but just on the border of Botswana. Here we go. We're at Tau Game Lodge, which is in Madikwe Game Reserve, a very special place with the zebras running around, and look at all the foals just enjoying themselves amongst the wildebeest. There we go, Catherine. More zebras for you, seeing as though you're wearing your lucky zebra socks today. Plenty of Egyptian geese and blacksmith lapwings. I can't believe how dry it is. This area has, gosh, it's like there's almost no water left. And it just goes to show the extent of the drought. There are patches of greenery, which is nice to see. Typically, it's quite bare. I don't know how nutritious plants are that are growing up there because it's such harsh soil. It's been compacted. I imagine that it's mostly pioneer species. So those that are not pedantic about the type of soil that it grows in, it doesn't need to be nutrient rich. I find myself constantly checking the tree line whenever I'm at Tau Lodge, looking for lions that might just be resting up in the shade. We've seen it quite a few times at this waterhole. Maybe today will be the day. And normally we see plenty of elephants around here too, but they do spend more time closer to the lodge, which is below where we can see at the moment. It's quite marshy, lots of aquatic vegetation and grasses. It's also a nice way to cool off. So we'll have a scan around, and then I will get you some questions about some elephants. Oh my goodness, Mindy, you said, did you wondering if I heard about the crocodile that ate an antelope live on the waterhole show the other day? No, I didn't. That's amazing. It's been crazy. I love watching the crocs of Tau, well, Madikwe Game Reserves. Here there are plenty, and I've seen them feeding on things before. I think once was a buffalo, but other than that, I have not seen them catch anything. I think we did see one catch a fish, but we just sort of missed it, what it was thrashing about. That's really special. Here's a nice close up of a zebra foal suckling from its mother. Sorry, everybody, my feed is glitching quite a bit, so I'm just trying to figure out how to not make it glitch. The struggles of getting good internet out where I live is always a problem. There we go. That seems to have stabilized a little bit better. But it might also be this camera. So let's give it a break until some elephants arrive. But we're going to head over to the west coast of South Africa and see what's happening at Stony Point. Oh my goodness, look at that fluff ball. It might be quite difficult to see. And if you don't know what that fluff ball is, it is a dassie or a rock hyrax, one of the few mammal species that we see roaming around at Stony Point. There are plenty of them. This is the most perfect habitat. Love rocks, lots of cavities and caves for them to rest in during the night, and obviously to keep out of harm's way if any birds of prey are out and about. But it's also lots of penguins. There's just been a variety of cormorants and other aquatic or marine birds too. So now we have a lot of different birds here. These are mainly cormorants. You can see the really large ones with the white coloration. Those are white-breasted cormorants, the ones that I have seen plenty of in my lifetime. Haven't really seen any up in the low veld, but not quite the right habitat for them. And then the other cormorant species that we are looking at, I'm assuming is the bank cormorants because there's nothing really else that looks like them. You can see how much smaller in size they are compared to that white-breasted cormorant. Doesn't look like they've got any yellow on them. I can't really see the color of the eye, but if it is a pale eye, then that's fabulous, and that will be an identifying feature. But the other cormorants, which you could potentially see around here, have got a bit more coloration. Oh, hang on. There, did you see some of them look like Cape cormorants? So up at the top right, that was really interesting. I thought I just saw a little patch of orange under the throat. Some of these could also be youngsters, could be juveniles, which is a possibility. And then it makes it all too tricky. But when you don't have a pair of binoculars and you can't see the details, then it's difficult. So I don't want to 100% confirm because I haven't done too much birding around here. Yesterday I was saying we need Byron to confirm. But let's have a scan. If we keep going along the rocks to the right, you'll see what I mean. There are a couple of individuals where you can actually see the sort of orange coloration underneath their throats. It's a beautiful view though. All the kelp forests that you can see. Life around the kelp is also quite spectacular. Let's see if there are any other birds. Well, what would be great if there was a large school of fish swimming around, Catherine? Then we might be able to get you some new birds when they when there is a bit of a fake ball of fish. That's so great to see them all flying and diving into the water trying to catch them. There we go. Lots of people enjoying the scene. Now, not only is there life in the water, but on the rocks you'll find all sorts of maybe some crab species, some mussels, and everything else in between. But you've got to be very, very careful when you're standing on slippery rocks. The swells can get quite big in Cape Town with the constant wind. Now you can see some of the African penguins at the back, and the last thing you want to do is be hit by one of those waves and slip onto the rocks and into the water. That would not be good. So from slurping elephants to the sound of waves, isn't that a peaceful live at the waterhole? Dark Rain Lover, you said that you love the view and also the cormorants. Absolutely. I'm going to have to come down and visit Byron at some point so he can take me birding around Betty's Bay. He does live in this area. I'm sure there's plenty of specials that I've never seen before. I think I'd add plenty of lifers to my bird list too. Not that I actually keep a list anymore, but I sort of remember offhand which are the ones I haven't seen. And in fact, just birding in the fynbos biome in general is not something that I've really done. It's crazy to think how many of us in the countries that we live in have not explored all the corners. So the Western Cape is somewhere I'd love to go and spend some time, especially around September when the flowers all burst out of the ground. But then also February is a very nice time of the year to be in Cape Town. It's lovely and warm, not as busy as it is over the festive season. Well, that was great time spent at Stony Point. But let's head to another camera called Naledi. Here we go. We're in Olifants West Game Reserve, a wonderful place. You can see there's been quite a bit of rain. Lovely, lush and green, and it looks like the waterhole to the left is full. Where the elephants are standing right now, if you haven't watched before, is a little well, and the elephants prefer to drink from there because the water is nice and fresh, not green and filled with algae and all sorts of other things. Although they will drink it if they absolutely have to. You can hear lots of chatting, of course. That's just from guests and everybody enjoying themselves. You can see most of the herd of elephants that we were seeing earlier at Tembe have all moved off, and it's just the local bulls that are hanging around. Dark Main Lover, you said thank you so much for another live at the waterhole. A pleasure. Thank you, Wildlife, for playing your part. It's been ages since I've seen any predators on the cameras, so I hope that in January I'll have the opportunity to spend a bit of time looking for them and looking hopefully at them. I wonder how deep some of these holes are. I'd love to go and investigate when there are no elephants around. I reckon I could stand in one of them. Must be a meter or so. That's crazy. Wow. Well, a very special day. I hope you're all still enjoying the holidays and have a relaxing time. But this will be the last time that you'll hear from me until next year. So, Happy New Year when it comes around, and wishing you all of the success and happiness for 2025. I'll chat to you all soon. Bye bye.